Hi, I'm Nina McKinney, and this is how you sell without selling out. Rogers that.
Hi, everybody. I'm Rogers Healy, and welcome to Rogers That, a podcast dedicated to selling without selling out. And today we have someone who's been a part of selling a lot. Believe it or not, my friend Nina McKinney, a proud SMU graduate, is now Alabama. Yeah, pony up. She's an Alabama resident now, and we were able to connect through the world of venture. Nina is the chief strategy officer of one of the fastest growing D2C companies in the country, a company called Oats Overnight. Ladies and gentlemen, Nina and company, her founder, Brian Tate, a former pro poker player, have disrupted the space of oatmeal. And they have found a way to go and have the product be elevated and to have a more experiential, unique experience with oatmeal. And we're going to get into it this morning. And that's how we met. We became fast friends, have a mutual respect for each other, love the grind, love the hustle. And it's just been so fun to watch them grow something that started as an idea into something that's a really, really big powerhouse brand that we're able to be a part of. So Nina, with that said, thank you for joining us this morning. And I would love to learn a little bit about your story.
Yeah, pleasure. Pleasure to be here. Like you said, fast friends. Yeah, we've known each other for quite some time now. Time flies when you're building and selling and growing families and doing all the things. So
yeah. Well, give us a little bit of info on your background. What led you to the world of oatmeal subscription?
Yeah. I don't know that I ever thought I would be the chief strategy officer at a oatmeal subscription company. But so my grandfather was an entrepreneur and sort of grew up in this entrepreneurial environment. My grandmother grew up in Texas, and my dad grew up in Dallas. And so when I was thinking about, growing up and where do I start, it always kind of started with college. And so it was a natural thing for me to go to SMU because my grandfather always said there are two things that make a successful business. It's knowing people and knowing numbers. And at SMU, I could get a degree in psychology and a degree in accounting. I was able to graduate from Cox and get a liberal arts degree as well. So I ended up in Dallas, loved my time there, just truly loved it. Fell in love with business, started my career, if you will, at Deloitte, auditing large public companies, really just getting into the numbers, but very quickly felt this pull towards specifically consumer, but early stage brands. And for me, I felt like the best way to really get into this entrepreneurial community was through venture, actually, because you get to see a lot of companies, you get to work with a lot of companies, and you get to just collaborate with a ton of founders. And so I worked at two separate funds within the CPG early stage venture community, investing for about 8 years, sat on over 5 boards, just got to see a lot of different growth stories, everything from Liquid IV to Serenity Kids, another Texas brand, to Lemmy Shine, another Texas brand. I'm just thinking of all the Texas brands I got to touch over time. But that ultimately drew me to, hey, I'm this board member that's sitting here with all these wild ideas, but I've never actually operated. And I expressed that to actually our mutual friend, Rogers, that introduced us. And they said, there's this oatmeal company that I think you would really add value to, but also I think you would just really get along with their founder. And met Brian on a Tuesday, started working the next Monday, and the rest is history. It's been a wild ride. Been with the company since July of 2022, so coming up on 2 years, and
wow.
It's been really fun doing everything from scaling our operations. We make all of our product in-house. This is our product, I guess. I don't know if it's helpful for me to give an overview, but and this is our retail product. But now I sit over our finance team, our retail sales team. I'm aggressively expanding into retail, so think like Walmart, Target, H-E-B, et cetera. And then also work very closely with Brian on all things strategy, innovation, what's next for Oats as we continue to grow. So Been a very like wide role with some specific focuses, but it's fun.
It's
I
awesome.
also would be amiss to say, I'm a mom. I've got two kids under three, a 2.5-year-old and a 7-month old. And yeah, my life's crazy, but in the best way. I wouldn't change it for the world. I always like to say I'm either growing oats or growing a baby. That's kind of been the theme of the past 2 years. Yeah, it's fun. It's fun. I wouldn't change it for the world. Um, and I'll speak later.
You think when Oats Overnight exits, you'll do maybe babies overnight? Can you?
Maybe babies
Yeah.
overnight. I don't know. I think it's so funny. People ask me all the time, like, what are you going to do when Oats exits? And if I had answered that question like 2 years ago, I would have been like, oh, I'm going back to venture. But I've fallen in love with operating. So I know I'll stay in consumer because I love it. I think consumer is such a fun ecosystem. I think, anyways, I'm just rambling now, Rogers.
No,
My
no, no.
favorite part about it is I think it is the only category that truly anyone can enter and start a company in. Most other categories require some sort of industry knowledge, a college degree, all of these things. You have founders that went to Harvard and, through their HBS process, discovered a brand. And then you have founders that were just working moms that were trying to do a side hustle to make their family some more money. And they stumbled on an amazing opportunity. I invested in a founder that was homeless when he started his brand.
Wow.
It's really, I get chills when I talk about it, but it is such a cool ecosystem because it's everyone. Because consumers for everyone. We all buy consumer products. And that means that anyone can start and grow a business. So
That's awesome. Well, and it's a great lead into the story of Oats Overnight. And again, you're 2 years deep into oatmeal, which is probably not something you would have thought about 9 years ago or 10 years ago or 2.5 years ago. And I never would have thought I was excited to be a part of an oatmeal revolution. But maybe give us a little bit of background on Oats Overnight in general.
yeah, I'm happy to. It's such a fun story. So I'll start with product because I think that's always best. So this is our hero product. So effectively on your first order, you get a blender bottle. There's a fill line here. You fill it to your milk of choice. It could be dairy, non-dairy. We recommend unsweetened almond milk as our go-to. That's what we use in our R&D lab. And then you add pouch over, shake it up, put it in the fridge overnight. In the morning, you have a drinkable, convenient oatmeal, high protein oatmeal shake. All of our products have somewhere between 10 and 22 grams of protein, the majority of them being 20 grams of protein plus. We have both gluten. All of our products are gluten-free. We have dairy-free options as well. So we use a pea protein in about, 30% of our SKUs. All of our products are non-GMO, kind of hit all of those lists. And I think why customers come to us is, one, consumers are seeking protein, right? And I think protein is easy to get into your diet through as you go later into the day, but breakfast is hard. And there's a lot of, protein shakes and protein bar options, but they don't taste that great. And I think what we've done is create a phenomenal product that tastes really good. And then I think the other thing that's struggling in breakfast is there isn't enough flavor. It's like chocolate, peanut butter, apple, cinnamon, blueberry, and like maybe a strawberry on shelf. We've got really fun things like cinnamon roll, fruity cereal. We're testing red velvet cupcake right now. Like we have over 50 flavors. And it keeps breakfast fun and entertaining. And for the whole family, right? We have tons of consumers that use it with their kids. Who doesn't want to drink birthday cake for breakfast? So D2C, our brand has been growing at over 100% a year for the past 5 years, which is crazy. We'll do well north of 100 million this year in sales, which is also nuts. Closer to 200 than 100, which is nuts. And really, it's all off the backs of our highly engaged consumer base. So one of the things that Brian realized early on is involving our consumers in the product development process not only creates this amazing engagement, but it also gives consumers a voice, and their voice is often right. And so they tell us what works and what doesn't. We don't launch products unless our consumers tell it works. So we have over 200,000 subscribers now. Every month, they get what's called a subscriber exclusive flavor and development. This month, like I mentioned, we're doing red velvet cupcake. And if you see that 2.0 there, it's because this is the second time we're trying it. So we tried it maybe about 3 years ago. We tried it. It didn't go well. Consumers didn't like it, so we didn't launch it. We picked back up the old recipe, revamped it. We're trying it again. The overall feedback on this one is really strong. We have a Facebook community that's over 80,000 consumers that are just constantly talking about flavors and how they like to prep the product and how they use the product. And can you have 4 in a day? What's too many oats? Which the answer is never too many oats. And I think that this product development engine that we've created is really unique and will allow us to not only continue to create overnight oats, but extend into other breakfast categories where we feel like protein is missing and we feel like flavor is missing. So, and then the last thing is, if you're not a D2C subscriber, we also have a retail product. So this is our retail bottle, same exact product as the D2C product, but it has a powdered oat milk in it. So you can just add water to this one, shake it up, put it in your fridge, easy, convenient, on-the-go breakfast. We're sold in all Walmarts, soon to be all Targets, pretty exciting. At most Walmarts, I'd say about 80% of Walmarts, all Targets soon, which is pretty exciting. H-E-B, Meijer, Safeway Albertsons, a few regions of Whole Foods. And yeah, we're just getting started on the retail side.
Ladies and gentlemen, the oatmeal revolution is here. And it's crazy. For 7 minutes, you just talked about your passion for oatmeal and for your job. And I've got so many questions with that. And I think that I've never been the founder. Actually, I guess I technically was a CPG founder, but people that are watching this, or maybe are in the food space or the apparel space, a lot of stuff you just said is so disruptive and so against the grain of traditional advice. And one thing I want you just to kind of chat on, and we didn't talk through this before, but 50 different SKUs, right? 5 years into the business. Like, what is that balancing act where, like, obviously the hero product is the oatmeal. Maybe there's the chocolate banana, or there's the fruity cereal that you guys know is just going to be the, the consistent revenue earner. But what does that look like? I mean, you're Baskin Robbins plus 20 flavors and it's oatmeal. How do you do that? And I want you to talk about the community as well, because when we were kind of doing diligence on getting involved, I have my own quirky way. And I found the Facebook group. And I was like, wait, what? There are, at the time, 30,000 plus people engaging daily about they can't wait for this. I'm like, what am I missing? I was like, this is something that's real. So maybe the first question is, with the SKUs, how do y'all manage that? And then 2, what has it been like to create a community of oatmeal lovers?
Yeah. Great question. So first off, I will say, get yourself a rock solid COO and ops team. We have the best team in the world, and they allow us, the sky's the limit, honestly, with them. They're like just a phenomenal team. They're yesers, they're get it doners. And I'm just so grateful to them because they allow Brian, myself, and the rest of the leadership team to execute against our wildest fantasies as far as how you build a CPG business. So first and foremost, would be incredibly hard to do this model with a co-packer. Also, there's elements about our product that made it very challenging to identify a co-packer that could make our product with the same integrity as we could ourselves. And so from day one, Brian invested in vertical integration. And so we have our own manufacturing facility. We actually now have 2 facilities. So one in Phoenix, where the company is headquartered, and one in Ohio. And that's really exciting. So I think from a practical standpoint, that investment has enabled us to innovate at the rate that we are innovating. I think it's been really interesting as we grow because we have so many SKUs, and we have what we call the Flavor Command Center, where we're able to see how different SKUs cause different trends. So there's some SKUs that are great acquisition tools. And what we found is they acquire customers into the brand. But they might not be like the viral SKU that everybody stays with, but consumers that have that SKU in their pouch, in their initial box, are more likely to come back. So like it's something, right? Then you have people that are kind of sleepers that are, maybe less exciting at entry, but once a consumer tries it, it is insanely high repeat. Like coconut cream pie would be a great example of that. It's like one of our everybody loves coconut cream pie. I highly recommend it. Even if you don't like coconut, we hear all the time that they love coconut cream pie. And so I think that is exciting because it gives us a lot of data and it allows us to not only feed into how we optimize our site, but also how we think about future innovation, how we think about future product lines, where we think certain flavors trend, what are certain sub consumers even, right? This is the consumer that loves fruity flavors and how do they behave versus a more chocolate centered consumer. And then also creating content based on that feedback loop. Because as everybody knows, I think on D2C, it very much is driven by your content strategy, right? We're all scrolling Facebook. We're all getting blasted with ads. You have to have something that's unique and stands out and makes consumers excited. And our creative team is phenomenal on taking these feedback loops of all these flavors. On the community side, I mean, truly, it was kind of something that happened. Shout out to Rachel. She's our community manager. And if you're in our group, everybody knows Rachel because she's just phenomenal. She works through the weekend. She has a different schedule than everybody to make sure that, there's somebody from Oats constantly in that community being a representative of Oats. So we made that investment in the community early on, but the rest of it, honestly, has just been organic. We get over 2,500 comments a day. We certainly tell consumers about the community after their first purchase to try to drive consumers there. But more and more, we're even finding people that found us in retail and we don't even have their email, right? But they heard from a friend of a friend about this group. And they're just all talking about the flavors, what they like, what they don't like. It's funny, even, with our R&D team, it's a great place to discover new flavor options, right? Because our group is just constantly telling us what they like, what they don't like. We have to always kind of ground that in, okay, but this is what the survey results off of these flavor and developments are telling us, right? Because not everybody participates in the community, but it's certainly a privilege to have a loud community. And it speaks to, we always like to say we're not changing the world, we're just selling oatmeal. There's just crazy stories of, whether it's weight loss, getting their diabetes in control, having a kid that, they're struggling to gain weight, somebody who is sick, going through chemo and can't eat the same way. These are the things that I literally get choked up thinking about. But getting to see those stories
and
see
it's
them
it's oatmeal.
It's oatmeal.
And it's oatmeal.
It's truly just oatmeal.
But it just goes to show, though, that I think that if you find something, and again, you're a friend of mine, but you're literally passionate about oatmeal. But what you're passionate about is the movement, and it just proves that whatever it is, if you put your mind to something and you've got good systems and a good team in place, you can grow and it's going to impact people. You never could have predicted this. Obviously, $200 million in revenue, no one could have predicted that. But the actual impact of saving people's lives and changing their lives and bringing people a better for you opportunity or option is just it's crazy. And then again, the community, the oatmeal community, right? I've learned so much.
It's crazy. People spend hours a day in our community talking about flavors. It's awesome and wild. And a privilege to get to work alongside my team and again, we're just selling oatmeal, but changing lives. I think people forget often too, these little moments, we all have them. We all have those things. It's that first sip of coffee in the morning. It's oatmeal. It's that getting to use that luxurious night cream at night, right? It's these small things that bring us simple joy in our daily lives, right? The daily grind. And I think founders, people in consumer and CPG behind the scenes, we often forget that we are bringing those moments of joy to consumers. And it's just fun, right? At the end of the day, it's just fun.
So here's a fanboy question. As a kid, I think I always unintentionally paid attention to just CPG and trends and brands. And I was a huge McDonald's fan, huge. and that's a whole nother conversation. But my favorite meal was the McRib. And I would always see the commercials, the McRib is back. And I would tell my parents, please take me to McDonald's. I got to get my McRib. And then it was gone again. Are y'all doing that to us with these flavors? Are y'all going to introduce flavors and then pull them back and then everybody wants it to come back?
We're starting to a little bit.
Do you think you'll have a McRib flavored oatmeal?
I don't know about McRib. It's funny. Our innovation team has done, I mean, they're awesome. Like our R&D team's done great things. They've created some savory oats. We're not sure if we're there yet as a brand. We might stick to the more dessert, fruit forward, chocolate forward flavors. But I mean, we've got some pretty interesting stuff behind the scenes. So if we decide to extend into another day part, McRib's not out of the question for sure.
Yeah. It's the collab. Imagine that the collab that no one knew they needed. The McRib flavored oatmeal. Croc family, if you're watching this, just, give it some consideration.
Yeah, for sure.
So even with that, I mean, like, how do you separate? I think that someone who you're living and dying by oatmeal, right? Does it become a point where, are you a fan still? It's like, do you despise, like, how do you still operate knowing that your one thing right now is oats overnight? Like, what does that navigation look like as a leader, as a female in the space, someone who's, paving a path that is so incredibly impressive? How do you balance that? How do you make your life not all about oatmeal?
Yeah. I would say in general, I don't do a great job, but I love it so much that's okay. My husband every now and then has to take my phone away from me because, it's hard not to just spend time in your free time looking at our community, right? Reading the posts, seeing the things that people are excited about. It certainly creates an avenue to like not separate. I always like to say, like, I'm that mom dropping off at daycare that I think the teachers just think I'm just like an insane person because I'm running in, no makeup on, like doing all the things. I don't really know. I try to, I think, just be like a normal mom when I'm not being a mom, when I'm not working at Oats. And I try to be a normal wife and a normal friend. I don't talk about, Oats unless I get asked. But it's been actually like increasingly challenging as we've grown. Like I ran into daycare the other day with the Oats hoodie on and her teachers were like, oh, I love that. I love that company. We love that company. And I was like, really? Like I'm, the chief strategy officer. And they're like, what? And like the head of our daycare like emailed me and was like, hey, if you could get us a discount code, that would be phenomenal. Like this is changing lives and they love it. We had no idea that's where you work. And so I think honestly, a lot of times I do a bad job of like talking about what I'm doing and what we're building. But I think it's truly just to create like that little bit of separation between work and life.
Yeah, I think the question that, there's always the cliche questions we got to ask or end with, and I can pepper some of them now, but the one that we all know the answer to, it's balance, right? Like when you find something you obsess over, founder, strategy officer, whatever it is, I'll ask you, I mean, do you believe in balance? Is there such thing if you're obsessing over something that's bigger than yourself?
Yeah. And I do believe in balance. But I will also say, so for me, like my priorities in life are, God, family, work, right? That's how it goes, in my life personally. And so we go to church on Sunday as a family. That's very important to me. There's no exceptions to that. My kids come first. I have kids blocks on my calendar for when there's times 6 to 7 every night. My team knows, like, unless the house is on fire or something, we got to leave Nina alone because she's spending that hour with their kids before they go to bed. I take my kids to school every morning and I try to preserve weekends. But I also think that it is an insane privilege to sit in the spot that I'm sitting in specifically, right? I'm not a founder. But Brian's entrusted me to be a big part. Brian has entrusted me and Vincent, our COO, as his right hands, right, his thought leaders, his partners in this journey. And we have over 300 employees, and they all rely on us to keep growing this thing, keep doing this thing. Everybody has ownership in the company. Everybody at the company, actually, we don't do bonuses as a company. We give equity out because it's important to us that everybody have a piece of the pie, especially when we potentially exit. And so I think that pressure is real. And I think it makes it hard to create work-life balance. But that's okay, because the seat that I've been given and the opportunity that I've been given is such a privilege. And as long as I stay grounded in my priorities, and I make sure that I'm getting time for God every week and getting time for family, the rest comes through. And not to, I always get nervous talking about, religious things on podcasts and things like
You
that.
should
But
never.
for me,
I think
that's how it is,
listen, the number
but
one thing, as a fellow believer, everyone has different thoughts on faith and Christianity, but the number one thing a Christian is supposed to do is speak about Christianity in hopes of other people coming to Jesus. And so I think it's incredible what you're doing. And again, maybe it's easier to do that in Alabama than it is in some other states because it's a little bit more old school, which I'm honestly kind of jealous of. But no, good for you. God, family, work is how it should be, right? And I feel like people are embarrassed or nervous to talk about it now because you have everyone coming at you that wants to just shoot
right.
you down. But more power to you. And I'll tell you too. We did an event in Dallas back in the fall of 23. And Nina flew in for the day. It was a really special deal. We had a lot of leaders and founders there. And I think your youngest child was maybe 3 weeks old. And she did it. She snuck in, hopped on a Southwest flight, was home by dinner. And again, I think that I've learned a lot from being a parent, but something I've learned other than like your heart gets bigger, all that fun stuff, is that you become lethal with your time. And time blocking, even if you're not balanced like me, it becomes a necessity. So you've done that to the next degree. I want to talk to you about being a female leader in the space. I'm a girl dad. My wife is my hero, and a lot of the companies that we're knee deep in are led by females. And I think that that's such a powerful thing to be a part of. But with what you're doing, and I'm sure it was a little bit disruptive in your background in investing for 8 years prior, but what kind of empowerment has that? How has the empowerment felt, knowing that you're, a face of something, you're a voice of something, and as a female, you can bring so much, opportunity to other fellow females. What is that? What has that felt like?
Yeah, I mean, it's felt amazing, honestly. So growing up, I went to an all-girls school. And so I think I had this privilege from a very early age of just kind of being myself and not necessarily having societal norms drive me some way. Literally when I got to SMU, I'm talking the same as everybody else in the class, right? And I think that was a big part of making me who I am. But I think being a female leader is phenomenal. I also think today in society, ironically, a lot of people elevate like what I'm doing, right? And I think it's really important as females, specifically at my age, right? Like in your 30s and 40s, when a lot of times, not everybody chooses to, but like you're starting a family, you're doing the family thing, right? I think females are incredibly important in society. And I think that no matter what your journey is, it could be me, which is being the CSO of Oats Overnight, or it could be being a stay-at-home mom. But I think it's really, really important, right, on the two ends of the spectrum. I think it's really, really important that as females, we recognize that everybody's journey is different, but we're all making a difference, right? As I said, like God, family, work, right? Family's number two there. I make it all work because that's what I want to do. And I want to empower other women to do that want to do that. But I also want to empower other women that make the decision to stay home and be with their families, because I think that's a beautiful, wonderful, hard decision as well. And so I think it's been awesome to be this champion. I think one thing I wish I did better was my maternity leave with my second. The company really wasn't in a place for me to be able to take a solid maternity leave. And I didn't love that because I have, we're over 60% female workforce.
Wow.
And I don't love how I was communicating to our team what that balance looks like. I've since worked with our HR team. We have a few team members that are going to go out on maternity leave here starting in May, one of them including my executive assistant. She's phenomenal. And I've really spent some time to make sure as a female leader, I'm empowering our team to take leave and spend that time with their families. but it's incredible. I'm here if anyone ever wants to chat about what it takes to kind of do family plus, a high powered, high stressful work life. I'm here to talk about it. But also, I think it's important to just recognize that everybody, every female is doing their best and making a contribution, and it's all
Yeah.
about decisions and where you want to go. So, anyways, it's a little bit of my soapbox, but I talk about it a
No, no,
lot.
no. Listen, females are superior to males. And I'm not saying that just to say it, 100%. And, that's it. And then the only way to make them even more powerful is childbirth. And when I saw my wife go through that, I was like, oh my gosh, I bow down to you. And to find any kind of balance, we're doing this. And I got a text from her 10 minutes ago. She's like, Kenley just had a blowout on our 2-year-old, had a blowout on her bed. And it's like, hey, and she sent a photo too. I was like, man, that's just one of the fun things, you just dominate. And, I think that's such a great investment is just the female brain and the instinct is so much more impressive than a man. And so, yeah, just watching you grow with such intention and lead so well has been super, super rewarding for me just as a fan. So that was very well said. Let's talk about the challenges of work, right? You have, everyone has hiccups, and especially, it's not a kiss of death, but I think it's really hard to grow a company that has success so early on. And the numbers you guys are putting up are massive, right? So what's been the biggest challenge other than maternity leave and work-life balance and God family work? Has there been something you can share that you were able to navigate through that you weren't anticipating?
Yeah. I think capital raising is always tough. I think balancing, it requires capital to scale a CPG company. Just with the margin profile of CPG, you're going to need capital to scale your brand. And I think that balance, oftentimes people don't talk about. So there's the reality of just like getting people to invest in you and believe in you is hard, right? For Oats Overnight, like we've had really great success. And I obviously come from that world. So I think we're pretty good at telling our story. But I think that the part that people don't talk about is founders, CEOs, C-suite members in CPG. I mean, 50% of my job is just making sure the company is capitalized. But 50% of my job is also operating the company, right? And being able to balance those two is incredibly challenging. Like that is the thing that it doesn't keep me up at night, but it's honestly for me harder than the work-life balance, right? Because that I can just sort of dictate. But there's so many variables that goes into fundraising. There's so many variables that go into operating, and it's different. And they're different focuses, but you're basically expected to do both at the same time.
You ready for a twisted question?
Yeah.
What would be okay for me? My hell would be knowing that everything is running perfectly smooth, right? And like if I don't feel like I'm needed and I can't use my brain and my skill set, then I'm not going to go and disrupt it. But for you this part of you kind of like knowing that like you have to always keep moving, right? Which means maybe it makes it hard to sit back and be like, holy crap, this company sold $200 million worth of oatmeal. Let me take it. It's like, you don't have time to reflect. Right. And I feel like that's where, again, we kind of clicked is that if you don't ever stop doing this, it's going to be unenjoyable. Yeah. But is that kind of part of the mindset?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Like you just don't stop. It's actually funny. Like Brian and I do these monthly investor updates. And, we'll always start from like, what did we say last month and what's happened in the past month? Like that's our one place of reflection, right? But that's also us making sure we're communicating to people like you, Rogers, that have believed in us of kind of what's the business doing. And those moments are so powerful because we're just like, oh my gosh, we did all of these things and the team did all of these things. And we're just like, we're running. But yeah, we don't stop. I love that. I love chaos. I love like, I had a 6 p.m. call last night. It was over my kids' block, but that's okay because sometimes we got a massive opportunity at retail. We got to figure out how to pack it out, right? Like physically pack it in a box. So I've got like 10 team members on the call and we're just like talking through. I mean, I literally brought like this high noon example, like on the call because we're just like visually talking about like, how do you pack this thing out? And like, that's fun. And it's not perfect and it's messy. And that's probably not how General Mills has their conversations when they're launching something new. But that's how Oats does. And it's like, it's the best, right? And we figured it out. We got it done in 30 minutes and now we're on to the next thing. And I love that. I think the second that Oats stop being that and we don't, we're more structured than we are chaos, if that makes sense. I don't know that, I'll be on to kind of what's the next company for me. I love establishing structure, but there's something special in that, like, as you said, just like that wheel turning.
Here's a fun question. Give me 5 words that are crucial for growing a consumer brand. What are 5 words that come to mind in the CPG space?
All right. Quality, engagement, leadership, differentiation, and team.
I thought of one that when I think of you, adaptability, right?
Yeah.
And I think being able to, and again, it's 300 employees, hundreds of millions of revenue, but you guys can still literally pivot on a dime, right? And what's really fun is you're probably entering an era where you can kind of start testing things, right? And I'm sure that excites you too. It's like, again, there's never a guarantee and there's always stuff that could go wrong, but does it excite you knowing that you have such a loyal fan base that potentially you could go introduce other verticals that are not just flavors, but maybe things that live under the Oats Overnight, mothership?
Oh yeah. That's coming. It's coming. Everyone should subscribe now because April, this thing might not be a flavor in development. It's probably going to be a product in development, which is pretty exciting. Scheduled, if all goes to plan, scheduled launch this summer. I think really what we've built is this consumer feedback loop that tells, that the consumers tell us what they like and they don't like. We know that we're going to be a winner in protein breakfast with flavor. So let's bring protein breakfast with flavor to other categories and go. We're excited. There is, a name coming as well. And because obviously as phenomenal as Oats Overnight is, it's really for oats, right? So as we go into other categories, there'll be some branding hierarchy that's going to be released as well that we're like really excited about. I think Brian always says like we're building the future of food, and I think we are. And to your point, Rogers, adaptability is a big part of that, and just having a rock solid team that just we all love what we do.
Okay, so just from a big picture perspective, looking back, a lot of moments are pivotal for your growth, right? But if you could go back and do it all over again and talk to someone who is 8 years you're younger than you, or maybe they're about to go and take a leap of faith, what's the advice that you got that gave you the confidence to go and take this leap of faith with Oats Overnight? Maybe what's the best advice you've ever received?
Yeah, best advice I've ever received is it's just about the people. And making sure that, so if you're founding something, surround yourself with people that can be your confidant in that middle of the night, freak out because there's something going on. If you're joining a team, so make sure you're surrounding yourself with people that you want to build with, because it's tough. Obviously, you need to have traction, you need to have differentiation, you need to have all these things. There are plenty of brands that have that, but they don't have the team or the support system around them to grow. So I think if you're starting from zero, make sure you have yourself a group of rock solid advisors that are there to help you. And if you're, joining a new team, make sure you're confident in the leadership and the people that you're going to be building with.
I love it. And then as far as disrupting, right? I randomly have been a part of water disruption. I've been a part of oatmeal disruption. What do you think outside the space of breakfast? Like in your mind, you go to bed dreaming about like the next thing that potentially is going to take over the world. And if so, are you able to share what that thing potentially is? I'm not saying with Oats Overnight, but just
yeah. Okay.
Is it hats?
I'm obsessed with air. So air.
AIR?
Yes, AIR. So I think you think about everything from air, and so it's air plus scent, but you think about everything from like air fresheners to diffusers that moms are using in rooms to clean and purify their air, but also bring scent into their home. And most of these things are either highly toxic or endocrine disrupting. And so I think there's just a massive opportunity in that space because it's a massive category that basically no one has touched. I don't have an idea specifically in mind, but it's something that I think a lot about. And I think there's a lot of fun education to come on that. So,
Wow. Well, I'm in. Um,
Rogers.
we're gonna do a subscription based air company.
Yeah.
And I have a
But
feeling
don't you
you'll figure
agree?
it out.
Like think about it. Like Febreze, you know?
Wow. Yeah.
Have you
Listen,
been pitched an air company? Have you been pitched an air company?
um, I don't
I
know.
think yeah.
I get really, really bad altitude sickness, and
Uh-huh.
like to the point where I get really sick. And I remember finally we went to Colorado last year, and I finally bit the bullet and got one of those like oxygen things, and I was like, this is such BS, and I don't think it really helped anything. But I was like, somebody's making some money off this, and maybe even if it's a placebo, it's helping. But I don't know if I've been pitched air yet. We got a new sunflower milk I tried a few weeks ago. Not for me, but I was like, all right, somebody's milking sunflowers, and you know,
Yeah,
who
milk's
knows?
tough. It's a tough category to play in milk.
Yeah,
Refrigeration in general, cold chain is
yeah,
tough.
yeah.
Uh, but
Um,
air is something I think about, and I think it's also just because I'm a mom, and so I think about like
yeah,
all the things that touch my baby or around my baby, and there's
yeah.
been a lot of evolution, but not on the air quality side. So
Well, keep me posted. I'm in.
okay, all right,
I
cool.
Last question. You get to
Yeah,
look back in a few decades and you look at your legacy and all the things that you did worldly, not God, not family, but stuff that is
yeah.
outward facing outside of the walls of your home. What are you most proud of?
So I think I spoke about how everybody in the company has ownership. And I'm really confident in in the ability of this company to transact at some point, whether it's, everything from IPO, selling to a strategic, selling to private equity, and all of those people will get money from that transaction. Um, and I think about, the hourly workers that have been with the company for the past 7 years that just bust their butt every day. And we're not, born into the same situation I was. Not that, I'm like crazy well off, but, I haven't wanted for anything in my life. That's the thing that I'm probably the most excited about. And then the second thing is just to look at my, kids and say, mommy was a part of building that, right? Mommy built that. And that company is, on the shelves when I'm 80 years old, right? Being able to walk down a Walmart aisle and still see the company that I built on the shelf. That would be like a dream come true. Pretty excited.
What if you're walking down the aisle holding a can of Nina's air? And then everyone is floating and they're flying, and then they're like, I knew it. Oatmeal was just the first step.
Just the thing. Well, if anybody wants to start an air company, hit me up. I'm not really investing that much these days because I'm so obsessed with oatmeal. But if you're doing something in air, let Rogers and I know.
Yeah, we should call it the Air Pod.
The air pod. There we
Yeah.
go. Maybe we can trademark that. Is there somebody big that owns that?
Yeah.
I don't think so. Right?
No, we're good. Well, it's a pleasure being your friend. I love being a fan, and I've learned so much from you guys. And I consider myself not necessarily a great thing for y'all, but I'm a very active investor, and I love learning. And I know to some people it annoys them, but to some people maybe they appreciate it. But you make me feel appreciated, and so thank you. And thanks for being such a great communicator and for putting the people first. It's very genuine, and it's so fun to be a part of what you guys are building. And so congrats on your success, and thanks for being a part of this morning.
Yeah. Thanks for believing in us, Rogers. There's nothing more empowering than having people that believe in us and give us money to to go and execute. So thank you for blaming us.
The oatmeal revolution, everyone. It's
oatmeal
here.
Revolution. Go to oatsovernight.com or oats.com. We do own oats.com. So go to oats.com.
Oh my gosh. Wow.